On the 6th of November, 2022, a man in Singapore sent a single tweet. It was 2 sentences long, and it was about a coin most people on Earth had never heard of. Within 72 hours, that tweet had blown open an $8 billion hole in one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, and revealed that the money customers thought was sitting safely in their accounts had already been spent. $6 billion in withdrawals slammed into the exchange in 3 days. The doors were bolted, and the founder, a curly-haired 30-year-old in cargo shorts, who months earlier had smiled from magazine covers as the next Warren Buffett, watched a fortune of nearly $40 billion fall to essentially zero. The company was FTX. And the strangest part of this story is not that it died in a weekend. It is that the warning had been sitting in plain sight, and almost no one wanted to read it.
Take a seat. This meeting has one item on the agenda: how a 30-year-old lost $8 billion of other people's money and very nearly convinced the entire world he was a genius while he did it. You have seen the face, the frizzy hair, the rumpled t-shirt, the young billionaire who slept on a beanbag and promised to give his whole fortune away. Politicians pocketed his donations. Investors handed him money with no board seat, no real accounts, and without asking the one question that mattered: where precisely is the customer money kept? Today, FTX is a bankruptcy file, and its founder is a convicted felon serving 25 years. But the vanishing act underneath it is not new, and it is not clever. It is one of the oldest tricks in finance, dressed up in the language of the future. 2 companies, 1 pocket. Allow me to show you how the pocket was picked.
This story does not begin in a garage. It begins on a trading floor. In 2013, a young graduate with a physics degree took a job at Jane Street, one of the most secretive and profitable trading firms alive. There he absorbed a single, powerful idea. If the same thing sells for 2 different prices in 2 different places, you can buy it cheap, sell it dear, and pocket the gap at almost no risk. Traders call it arbitrage. In 2017, he found that gap in a strange new market. Bitcoin was selling in Japan for as much as 10% more than in the United States. So he built a trading firm called Alameda Research to harvest the difference, moving millions of dollars across the Pacific to capture the spread. It worked. And then he wanted more than to trade on the exchanges. He wanted to own one. In 2019, he launched FTX, a slick platform where anyone in the world could buy and sell crypto. The money arrived like a tide. Within 3 years, FTX carried a valuation of $32 billion, backed by some of the most respected names in finance. He spent to match the myth. A Super Bowl commercial, a basketball arena in Miami with his company's name bolted to the roof, sports legends in the advertisements. He ran the whole thing from a luxury penthouse in the Bahamas, testified before Congress as the sensible adult of a wild industry, and told everyone who would listen that he intended to make billions purely to give it all away. Fortune magazine put him on its cover and asked, in print, whether he was the next Warren Buffett. The world had quietly decided that he was the trustworthy face of crypto. Here is what the cover stories left out. FTX and Alameda were supposed to be 2 separate companies. FTX was the exchange, where ordinary customers parked their savings. Alameda was the trading firm, gambling with its own money. The wall between them was the entire point. Your deposit on an exchange is meant to be yours, held for you, untouchable, like cash in a bank vault. Behind the code, that wall did not exist. Alameda held a secret privilege buried inside FTX's own software, a hidden exemption that let it borrow almost without limit from the exchange, drawing straight from the deposits customers believed were locked safely away. Prosecutors would later show that billions of dollars in customer funds flowed out of FTX and into Alameda, and from there into risky bets, private investments, political donations, luxury property, and personal loans to the executives themselves. And there was a second sleight of hand. A huge slice of Alameda's supposed fortune was not dollars at all. It was FTT, a token that FTX had invented out of nothing. FTX printed the coin. Alameda stacked it up and counted it as real wealth. As long as the price of FTT stayed high, the balance sheet looked magnificent. It was a company holding up its own books with a currency it manufactured itself, a tower built on a mirror.
Let me say the quiet part out loud. There was no vault. When a customer wired money to FTX and watched a number appear on a screen, that number was a promise, and the thing standing behind the promise had already been gambled away. This is not a crime the future invented. It is the oldest fraud in the book wearing a hoodie. Take money from the many, quietly move it to yourself, and pray that the many never all ask for it back on the same morning. When you use tomorrow's deposits to paper over yesterday's losses, that is not financial innovation. That is a Ponzi scheme with a trading app attached. For a while it can feel like brilliance because the numbers only rise and nobody thinks to check the plumbing. The trouble with a house of mirrors is not that it falls, it is how fast it falls. In the instant one person walks in and turns on the light. And in early November, someone reached for the switch.
The light came from a leaked document. On the 2nd of November, 2022, the crypto news site CoinDesk published a report on Alameda's private balance sheet. Reporters had obtained it, and what it revealed was alarming. The trading firm's supposed fortune was stuffed with FTT, the very token FTX had minted itself. A company, in other words, was resting on money conjured by its own sister firm. The people who understood what they were reading went very quiet. One of them was Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance, the largest crypto exchange on Earth and FTX's biggest rival. Binance happened to be sitting on a large hoard of FTT. 4 days later, on the 6th of November, Zhao sent his two-sentence tweet. Binance, he wrote, had decided to sell its entire position in FTT, citing recent revelations. It was the financial equivalent of shouting fire in a crowded theater, except the theater truly was on fire. Customers read the tweet and did the only rational thing. They ran for their money while they still could. $6 billion in withdrawal requests poured in over 72 hours. And FTX could not pay, because the money owed to them had never really been there. The founder tried to calm the stampede. FTX is fine, he posted on the 7th of November. Assets are fine. He deleted it the following day. What came next took days, not years. On the 8th of November, with customers stampeding for the exits, the founder turned to the one man who might save him, and it was his rival. Binance announced it would buy FTX to stop the bleeding. The relief lasted about a day. Binance sent its people in to inspect the books, saw the true size of the crater, and walked away, saying the problems were beyond anyone's ability to fix. On the 11th of November, 2022, FTX filed for bankruptcy. The founder resigned. In his place marched a gray-haired veteran named John Ray, the man who had cleaned up the wreckage of Enron. Ray had seen the worst corporate disasters America could produce, and even he was stunned. In his first sworn statement to the court, he wrote that never in his career had he seen such a complete failure of corporate controls, and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information. There were no proper records. Company money had bought homes and toys. The hole where the customer funds should have been came to roughly $8 billion. On the 12th of December, police in the Bahamas arrested him. He was flown to the United States and put on trial. In November 2023, a jury needed only a few hours to convict him on all 7 counts. Among them, wire fraud and conspiracy. 4 months later, a judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison. The next Warren Buffett would spend most of his 40s behind bars.
Minutes recorded. Before we adjourn, one question for the room, and do leave your verdict in the comments below. The founder has always insisted he was no thief, merely a careless manager who lost track of the money. The jury saw it differently, so I put it to you. When a man blends billions of dollars of customer deposits with his own private bets, and all of it vanishes, is that fraud? Or is it only incompetence in a t-shirt? And here is the detail that ought to trouble you most. The lawyers, the investors, the celebrities, the lawmakers, the journalists. So many clever people looked directly at FTX and saw a genius, because he had a good story and a rising number beside his name. The number was a lie from the very first day. Ask yourself how many good stories you have believed for no better reason than that they were going up. Next meeting, a builder of farm tractors who was mocked to his face by Enzo Ferrari and answered the insult by creating the most beautiful supercars the world had ever seen. Revenge in 12 cylinders. How Lamborghini was born from a single insult. Subscribe. Attendance is taken. Minutes recorded. Meeting adjourned.